Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Programming with a Purpose. This is the part 4 in the series of learning iOS development using SwiftUI with our Duolingo app. So we have done the onboarding process and next we are going to move to these lesson screens. So there are 4 types of lesson screens and 3 of them we are going to implement in this lesson. So this is basically the screen with only audio, then the previous 2 are basically with text and with sound. So we are going to create an enum for all of these 4 types to handle them according to our UI in the view. So first let's create an enum inside the file data that we have already created. So there are 4 cases: word with sound, only text, and matching pairs. Next we are going to create a struct lessons which is going to store our lessons data. First is the type which belongs to the lesson type of enum. Then there is a question which is going to be a string and it will only contain the word. And then question in Arabic is basically the Arabic translation. It is going to be used for the speaking purposes or for audio purposes. Then there are Arabic options in case of screens which allow the options to be selected from the Arabic ones. And then there are other options which are basically the options present inside the English language. Then there is a correct option index which can be from any of these 2 arrays, Arabic options or options. And there are correct matching indices which is basically for the case of matching pairs lesson screen. So after that I'm going to create here lessons data and we are going to add here some of the static data that we are going to use to build our lessons view screens. So the first lesson I'm going to add here. So the first is basically word with sound and then there is a question. So the question is in Arabic. We are going to use this keyboard which is present at this link. You can see on the top. I'm also going to paste the link in the description box. You can use that keyboard and copy paste the word here in the question. And then question in Arabic will be the same as question in this case. And we have the options which are in English. So we are populating the options variable. Correct option index is 0 and matching indices is nothing since this is not a lesson of type matching pairs. Next we are going to add some more lessons. You can copy paste all of these values onto your screen and next we are going to add a file. Basically we want to move this enum and struct lessons to our model because we have already created a folder of models, so we need to keep all of the models at one place. So I'm going to move it here so that we have all of the models under one folder. So next I'm going to create a utility class which I'm going to basically handle the options. Since when we click one option, rest of the options will needs to be deselected. And all of this functionality will be handled by a class with the name of option selection handler. This functionality will be familiar to you since we have used it inside the onboarding questionnaire view as well. So I have created a generic class for it and you can use this class inside the onboarding questionnaire view as well to improve the code and to basically avoid the duplication of code. So here I have created an option selection handler class which extends observable object and we have created a published variable of selected entry. It will contain all of the values as bool. Like if there are 5 options, all of these will be set to initially false and whichever is selected will be set to true. So I am writing a getter and setter for the subscripts. So whenever we are going to set the value as true, we want to disable rest of the values and set all of these as false. So this functionality is automatically handled inside the subscript. So here I am setting it as new value or true. Next, there is an error that no init method is mentioned. So I'm going to initialize the selected array to the array that will contain all of the false values and equal to the first index of lessons. Like our first lesson, it will check the options it has and it is going to count them and initialize an array for all of these options to be set as false. Next, I'm also going to create another function update object which is going to update this selected entry array. So the previous array will be overridden and the next array is created which will be according to the count of the value that is passed to this object. Next, I am going to mention here two of the computed properties. One of it is the index of entry selected, which is going to return the index of the entry that is selected or basically set as true inside our array. So basically, it is going to check if the entry is set to true, it is going to return its index. It is going to help us to get basically the correct answer, and we are going to compare it with the option we have selected. And then there is another variable that is going to be just tell us that if any of the entry is selected, which means that if any of the member of this array is true, then it is going to return as true, which means that one of the option is selected among all of the options. Otherwise, it is going to return false. You can basically use the index property for both of these purposes, but I have created another property to just make things easier to understand. So after that, I'm going to create another view with the name of options result view. This is the view that we are going to create. It is going to appear when we have selected an option and that option is correct. So it has a check mark, a text, and a flag. And this is in the case of incorrect selection of the option, and then a button. I have kept the text as a simple text. So first we are going to create a VStack because we want to create a little space at the bottom of this view. So first there is an H stack which will either contain a tick or a cross. I'm using a system image for that, and then a foreground color which is going to be green in the case of our correct option. So first I'm setting the screen for the correct option. Great job. There are different type of texts that are present for a if the option is selected is correct. You can use any of the text and or you can randomize the text and set it inside an array and pick any of the value according to your needs. But I'm just basically using here the text of great job. So here I'm setting a button which is a flag. I haven't implemented the functionality of clicking on that button, but I have just shown it here. So this is the flag. I'm setting a frame width and height to basically set its size, a foreground color which is going to be green or red, set it as bold to make it a bit more prominent, and then a scale effect to basically flip this image. We are going to see that the now it's flipped if we set a scale effect with x minus 1. So after that, I've added a little bit of padding that is going to improve the UI, and then a frame. Since this view is small, it is not equal to the screen, so I have to set a frame of this view. So I've set it with a height of 200 here, and then a background color which is not to be used inside the production app, but here we are going to place the color so that we'll be able to see the height of this view. So now I've added a spacer and you can see that the view is pretty much like the view we want. The continue button will be the part of our parent view. So we just need to add the top text and images here. There is another struct that we are going to create inside the models. It is going to basically help us to see that if the result is correct or incorrect. And in case of incorrect, it is going to pass the correct result. We are going to paste it inside this view. So here I am copying here a default value for the result so that we'll be able to see the output on the preview. So first here I am setting two values. First I am getting the is correct variable, and then I'm setting the color according to an conditional here. So if it is correct, then it is going to be set as green, otherwise it is going to be set as red. And now I'm going to pass this color wherever the color is going to be changed in case of a correct or incorrect answer. So first a system name image is changed. I'm going to check here the value of false so that I'm going to see how the changes are visible on our preview. So a question mark is set in that case. So here I'm going to set the color of the text and then the color of the flag. And here I am going to add an if else which is going to display the correct answer in our case of three screens, which are basically the screens of only sound, only text, and word with sound. So the correct answer is basically result.answer is going to be printed here. Since we are passing nothing here, so nothing is printed here inside the preview. So if it's not correct, we are going to print it, and otherwise a spacer is going to be added in both of the cases. So I have improved the code, and here I've checked it for a value of true. Now I've removed the default value and I'm removed the preview. We are going to pass the value of result whenever we are going to build this view inside our main view. And also I'm going to adjust the height according to the result dot is correct. Since whenever the result is incorrect, we need a larger frame to display the correct answer as well. So the next file we are going to add is basically a view, which is a question card, which is going to display the question on the top of the screen. So it is going to be a word inside a square or an audio icon. Here I am just going to show you how we are going to display the word. So it is going to contain a rectangle of a certain frame width and height, which is going to have a foreground color of green, and then a white text is basically printed on the top of it. So this is for the screen of word with sound. So here I've removed the default word so that we'll be able to pass it from our main view, which is basically going to be the lesson view. And here I have added a simple word inside the preview to see its output inside the preview, how it's going to look like our question card. Next, another view is going to be added, which is going to be the options card. All of the options, how they'll be presented under this question inside our lesson view screen. So the first variable that is going to be introduced here is index, which is going to basically see that which of the option we are going to pick. Then there is a selection object, which is of the type option selection handler. I've already shown you this class. The word which needs to be pasted on this option card. The type, because type determines that if it is going to be a rectangular option or an option in the form of a square. And then there is going to be our body, which is going to contain the view. So first it is going to be a button, and we are going to contain a Z stack, which is going to be a rectangle, and on the top of it the word is going to be printed. So follow all of these steps and copy the options card view onto your computers. So if the option is selected, it is going to be set with the color green, otherwise it is going to be set with the color gray. And the line width is set as 2 because we want to basically display the outer boundary. And then a frame width and height is set. So the frame width in our case of the type word with sound is going to be covering the entire width of the screen and a height of 80. Then there is a padding that is added and a disabled functionality is initially set, which means that the values enable and disable will be according to the not of our selection entry object at a certain index. And now this is the else. This is for the case of with sound and with text. So in that case, the option will be like a square option. The outer boundary will be a square. So this is how it's going to look like. I'm showing it inside the preview by passing a static value inside the type. So this is all about the options card. And now we are going to basically set the functionality of the clicking of this button. So the selection object index is going to be toggled whenever we are going to click it. So there is an error. I'm going to fix it. So here I've set the selection object as observed object so that the error is going to be removed. So after that, I have basically made a small change. I have copied all of this code of the view inside the body of the button. And I am going to basically, you can either comment out the options card or you can pass here the static values if you want to see the preview on the right hand side. So now the code is complete. The value is not being displayed. So let's see how we are going to create the lesson view, and then we are going to make all of the changes required inside the options card. So first, these are the two values that we have passed inside the onboarding questionnaire view as well. One is basically an environment variable which is going to dismiss the screen in case of if we add the close button. And the first one is the progress. Progress functionality is not implemented up till this point. We are just going to show a bar on the top of the screen. After that, lessons data is going to be captured from our lessons data dot lessons array. And a state variable is added which is index lesson, which is going to be incremented whenever we move to the next lesson screen. An observed object for a selection handler is added since we are going to make changes inside lesson view as well. And another state variable of speech synthesizer is added here. And an import of AV Foundation will be done because we want to play the audio inside our each of the question. So here I've added a variable grade items. It is going to control the number of columns that will be displayed on the screen for each of the type. Since for the type of word with sound, only one column is present, but with the other two types, except matching pairs, two columns are displayed. So we need to add here a grid items, which is going to be then passed to our scroll view. After that, another state variable is going to be added, which is basically display result view. It is going to be set as false, and whenever we are going to evaluate the result, we are going to set it to true, so that we'll be able to see our option result view. And there is the result, which is going to be set as true initially, and we are going to check that if the result is true, we are going to change the color of the continue button at the bottom of the screen, otherwise it is going to be set as red. So first, let's add the navigation view inside the main view. Next, we are going to set its back button as hidden so that we will not be able to see it on our screen. We are going to add here a vstack, which is going to contain all of the elements. This is going to be the parent element. After that, we are going to add an hstack, which is going to contain a close button and a progress bar on its right hand side. I have copied the progress bar from the onboarding questionnaire view and just pasted it here. So our top part of the view is completed. After that, we are going to add basically a question card. So I'm folding the Z stack. I'm folding the H stack here. And now add the text, which is going to be appear as a singular string on the top of the screen as a question. So I'm going to switch between the types and we are going to set the question according to our type. So for the first one, the word with sound, the string returned is basically what sound does this make. You can also basically create a function inside this var body SumView as well. And it is going to basically return this string and you are going to then put it inside this text. But I have just pasted the code here. So lesson type dot only text is going to print this. Select the correct words for the word which is picked from this question. Next, two of the other cases are going to be handled, and we are going to see here that with only sound, what do you hear is going to be printed as a question, and then tap the matching pairs for the basically the lesson type of matching pairs. I haven't handled the matching pairs up till this point. I'm going to cover it inside the next part. So here I'm setting this text and I've already passed it a type of basically word with sound. So it is picking up the first option. And I'm going to set here the foreground color, the padding, and all of the view properties to make it similar like the screen. Then some space is added with the frame height so that we'll be able to display the question card underneath it. So here I'm setting the options. So it is going to be picked from the lessons data, either from the options array or from the Arabic options. So whichever has the values is going to be picked and placed inside our array variable of options. So if the lesson type is word with sound, we are going to paste here a question card, which is going to contain a question from a lesson index. And it is going to be an H stack so that we are going to add here the spacers to align it inside the center. Since our major alignment outside the V stack is leading, so to align it, we need to add spacers and an H stack. So after that, if it's not that it is only sound, we are going to add here an audio sign. The audio sign does not contain an outer rectangle. You can use a C stack to print that. I haven't covered it here, but just showing you how the image can be added here. You can also add this functionality inside your question card view, where you can basically pass the type and it is going to return you a view that either contains the word or this audio sign. After that, we are going to add here a scroll view that is going to contain a lazy V grid of the grid items. That is the variable we have created on the top. And we are going to iterate over the options variable that I have shown you a few minutes ago. And we are going to basically display all of the options inside the options card. The option card view is going to be used here to display all of the options inside this lazy V grid. So I am passing here all the relevant variables. And you can see here the values are not displayed. There is a small error. Here I have added it. I've added the options, and when I've passed the options, the values are clearly visible and all of the padding is added automatically. Now you can select and deselect the value and you are going to see that the selection handler is working properly. Now I'm folding this scroll view and next we are going to add another view which is basically the options result view. So this is going to be pasted here. Next, I'm going to add the button, which is going to basically help us click and check our value and show us either the result is correct or incorrect. So before adding the basically the functionality of the clicking, I'm going to add the view or create the view of this button. So if the display result view is true, which means that the result is already evaluated, we are going to paste basically the text of continue. Otherwise, it is going to be a check text. And this is the font, and edge insets will be added around it. The foreground color of the text is going to be basically white, and the background is either going to be red or green depending upon the result. If the result is correct, it is going to be green, otherwise it is going to be red. And we are going to check the computed variable of is some entry selected from selection handler. And initially it is going to be gray, which means that the button is disabled since no option is selected. So we have set a corner radius, and I'm going to add a frame width and height of this button. And we are going to disable it if there is basically no entry selected, it is going to be disabled. So this is how the button is going to look like. So you can see here, whenever an option is selected, the check button is basically enabled with the green color initially. So let's add the functionality of this button here. So if the result is not displayed, we are going to check here that if any of the option is selected, we are going to set it to true. And then we are going to check the result if the result is correct or incorrect. So we are going to get the index of the entry selected here, and we are going to compare it with the index that we have selected and set inside the data. So if both of these indices match, it means that the result is correct, and the answer is basically nothing since we do not need to print the answer. Let's copy paste here in case of an incorrect statement. So the is correct is set to false here, and the answer is going to be picked up from our options. Lessons data, index lesson, dot correct option index. We are going to pick the actual answer and we are going to print it inside our view. So after, if the it is set to true, we are going to set it to false. We are going to reset the result dot is correct, and index lesson is going to be incremented, which means that we are going to display the next lesson. And we are also going to update the options that we have calculated on the top since the index lesson is changed. So update selection handler function is going to be called. So first it is going to call the function inside our selection handler, which is update object. So it is going to basically update our selected entry array using this object and this function. And next it is going to basically see that the next lessons data type, if it is of a certain type, we are going to create two columns, otherwise the grid item will contain only just one column. So I have added the basically changed the grid items state here inside this function update selection handler. So here you are going to see that there are multiple errors. This is due to the reason that we are going to change the result variable object and we haven't set it as a var, we have set it as a let. So I have made this change and now you can see that on the preview the lesson, first lesson is visible. So I'm adding here the function of update selection handler inside the else when we are going to move to the next lesson, because we want the next selection handler to be in place. So we are going to remove this yellow color that we have used for our testing purposes. So I'm going to remove this yellow color. I'm going to comment out this line. And next, so click it and you are going to, so great job. The right option is selected in our case. So here I'm adjusting the height as well because the height is a bit bigger than what we have expected. So now the height is proper. Now I'm writing another function which is going to basically speak the word whenever we are going to launch the screen. Please note that you are not able to hear the voice inside the simulator. There is some issue with iOS 17. For that purpose, you have to basically install this IPA inside your device by connecting it with a wire if you do not have an Apple developer account. So I am going to basically connect it, and you have to set your account credentials inside your project, and you are also need to basically match the deployment target. Since in my case the deployment target of the device is lower than which I have set inside this project, here it is set to 17, so I have downgraded it to 16 inside the project settings by selecting a value of 16.0. So after making these two changes, I was able to run the this app inside my real device, and there I will be able to hear the voice that I'm speaking here using this function speak the question. So I'm going to call it at 2 points inside this update selection handler, which means that the next question is loaded, and inside on appear, which is going to basically make you hear the voice of the first question. So I have set here the lesson view as the default view inside our content view. So here I am playing the code inside the simulator. So let's select different options. I'm going to basically randomly select correct and incorrect options to show you how the view is going to look like. So here the correct answer is zoo, and there is a problem that great job is printed. We need to change the text inside the incorrect screen. The continue button is set properly. Okay, now this is the matching pair screen, and since it is not set, it is not according to what we expected. So here I'm updating the text inside our options result view. So if there is correct, we are going to print this. Otherwise, we are going to basically print the text of incorrect answer. So here I am playing the code again, and as you are going to see that the text is going to be updated in case of an incorrect value. So here I am going to basically choose an incorrect value, and the incorrect answer text is printed. So you are going to see a lot of errors and warnings inside your console. If you do not want your simulator to get stuck and those errors not to appear, you are going to comment out the speak the question function while running inside the simulator. But on real device, you need to uncomment it. There is also going to be a crash when you run it on a real device. For that, I'm going to add the check here inside this file of options card. This is just like the check that we have added inside our previous onboarding screen.
Zo. Zo. Zo.
So this is all for this part. In the next part, we are going to cover basically the matching pair screen and some other functionalities. So if there is any question, post in the comment section. Do not forget to like and share this video, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.